Hello everyone, welcome to another one of my Leetcode videos. In this one we'll do Leetcode 2611, mice and cheese. This was part of this week's contest. So we're basically given two arrays, reward1 and reward2. They're both the same size. Reward1 tells us the reward if the first mouse eats the ith cheese. And the second array reward2 tells us, like, for each index of cheese, what's the reward if the second mouse eats the cheese, right? And we need to return the maximum points the mice can achieve if the first mouse has to eat exactly k types of cheese, right? So for example, we have this array in the example that we're given. So basically what this means is if the first mouse eats the first cheese, we get 1 point. If the second mouse eats the first cheese, we get 4 points, right? So if the first mouse has to at least eat 2 cheeses, what we'll try to do is see, okay, what are the indexes where the first mouse does better than the second mouse, right? So in this case, the first mouse here does better than the second mouse because we get 4 and this only gets 1. So we'll try to make this cheese go to the first mouse, and then we'll try to make this cheese also go to the first mouse because 3 is better than 1, and the rest go to the second mouse, right? So we basically try to pick the cheese where the reward 1 is greater than reward 2, right? So the bigger the difference between reward 1 and reward 2, the bigger, or the more that we want to use that to in the k, because that will give us the maximum score, right? So basically what we need to do is get the differences between reward 1 and reward 2, right? So in this case it's -3, -3, 2, 3, right? And let's say we had another one here that's like maybe 4 and 3, right? In this case the difference is only 1. So we'd still want to pick these two cheeses for the first mouse, right? If assuming our k is equal to 2. So we want to pick the cheese where the difference of the two is greater for the first mouse and the rest can go to the second mouse, right? So that will be our algorithm. We basically need to get the difference and then sort the difference so that we can pick the highest k ones for that first mouse, and then the rest will go to the second mouse. So basically what will be our approach to sort it, right? So we can just put everything in an array and sort it, or if you notice here, the ranges of the numbers are pretty fixed, right? It's like 1 to 1,000. So if you imagine the minimum difference is basically going to be 0 minus 1,000. That's equal to -999. Actually it's 1 minus 1,000, because the smallest reward is 1 and the biggest one is 1,000. So if reward 1 was 1 and reward 2 was 1,000, the minimum is -999. Let me move this up. So our maximum difference is basically going to be 1,000 minus 1, which is equal to positive 999, right? If this one has 1,000 and this has 1. So given that all numbers are within this range, we can easily use like a bucket sort or a counting sort kind of algorithm, right? So we can just do diff plus 999, and that will put the diffs in the range of 0 to 1999, right? And then we can just create an array of size 2000. So at each index of the array, we'll just put the I that lands there, right, as a list of things. And then we'll go from the back of the array to, we'll iterate backwards to the front and pick the first k indexes for reward 1 and the remaining indexes for reward 2. And that way we can solve this problem. So let's go ahead and write the code and see how that looks like. Hopefully things will get a bit cleared up. So let's start with this data structure. So it's going to be basically each element in the array will be a list, right? Because there can be multiple indexes that have the same difference, right? So we'll have an array of integer lists. I'll call it diff to indexes, and we'll initialize that to a new array list. And then what we'll do is we'll loop through the reward array. So here we have our loop. Now we'll first compute our diff, which will be reward1 at I minus reward2 at I. And remember, the index is going to be the diff plus 999, right, to get it in this range. So we'll say diff plus 999. And then what we'll do is, if diff to indexes at diff index is null, that means if there's no existing list for that, we'll go ahead and create a new one. And then now that we're sure that a list exists, what we'll do is we'll grab that list and add our index I, right, for that diff index. So we have basically grouped all of the indexes of reward1 and reward2 into the corresponding diff. Now all we need to do is, since we need to pick the k ones from the highest diff to the lowest diff, right, we'll start by iterating from the back of the array. So we'll say int I is equal to 1999. That's the highest one we can have. And I greater than equal to 0, I minus minus, right? And then each index can have multiple diffs, right? So first let's check if there is a diff at all. So we'll say if diff to indexes at I is null, that means we've never created something for this. We'll just continue. Otherwise, if it's not null, we'll loop through all of the indexes in this diff to index, right, that we've added for this diff value. And then what we'll simply say is, if k is greater than 0, our score we will pick that from reward1, right? So we'll pick this index from reward1 because our k is still greater than 0. Otherwise, we'll pick the score from reward2, right? And here we'll decrement our k, right? So when we've picked, since we're going backward, we're picking the highest diffs first from reward1. And as soon as k stops, and we'll decrement k, right? So we use up k as we go. And as soon as k is no longer greater than 0, we'll get the score from reward2. And at the end, we'll return score. And obviously, we have to initialize score to 0 over here. So yeah, I think that should do it. Let's run it and see how this does. All right, as usual, I forgot to comment out my scratch, so I'll just comment it out and run it again. All right, this is not an array list. This has to be an array of lists, and the length is 2000 because it goes from 0 to 1999. And I forgot the new keyword. All right, accepted. Let's submit. Perfect. 100% solution. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.